Alright, for decades now, the term superfood has been used as a type of buzzword by many people for various foods. Merriam-Webster.com defines the term superfood as a food that is rich in compounds such as antioxidants, fiber, or fatty acids, which are considered to be beneficial to a person's health. Pomegranates, kale, chia, broccoli, green tea, salmon, blueberries, all these fit under the category of a superfood. However, one superfood that has been gaining a lot of traction as of lately is none other than coconut oil. So today I want to present for you the major health benefits of coconut oil. The first one of my benefits are the internal benefits. Coconut oil is great for losing weight. According to wellnessbeingasecret.com, coconut oil is rich in medium fatty acids, what medium fatty acids do is that they break down the fat in a person's body and convert that into energy. So in essence, it speeds up a person's metabolism. American Journal of Clinical Nutrition confirmed that medium chain fatty acids can significantly lower the weight of people who consume it. I recommend using coconut oil as a secondary food source, so putting it on a salad or putting it on a pan when cooking, not consuming it straight up. I don't think that's a good idea. Another internal benefit of coconut oil is it produces a lot of testosterone. Livingstrong.com states that coconut oil produces testosterone. Research by G. Hurtado indicates that coconut oil optimizes testosterone production by enhancing the activity of the enzymes involved in synthesizing the hormone. Testosterone is a key component when building muscle. For those of you who are interested in becoming a bodybuilder and gaining muscle mass, I recommend integrating coconut oil into your daily diet. Another internal benefit of coconut oil is that it helps with digestion. Organicfact.com states that coconut oil helps improve digestion. It helps improve digestion helps prevent problems such as irritable bowel syndrome. The saturated fats within coconut oil have antibacterial. It helps deal with bacteria such as fungi and helps kill the bacteria that cause indigestion. And also, coconut oil also helps absorb vitamins, minerals, and amino acids in the body. Now that we have covered the external benefits of coconut oil, I want to cover now that we covered the internal benefits of coconut oil, I want to cover the external benefits. Coconut oil also moisturizes skins. NaturalLivingIdeas.com claims that coconut oil contains properties that help moisturize the face and body. It helps keep skin hydrated and prevents water loss. Another external benefit of coconut oil is that it helps nourish hair. WellnessMama.com says that coconut oil allows it to penetrate hair in ways that other oils can't. This is due to the low molecule weight which penetrates hair. The oils help prevent protein loss on damaged and undamaged hair. A way in which it can be used is before or after you shower. You can just apply straight coconut oil to your hair, and that would be very beneficial. Another external benefit is that it helps prevent acne, helps treat acne. Livestrong.com says that the oil is a nutritionally dense source of easily digested saturated fat. It can minimize acne scars and benefit color tone. Medium chain fatty acids acts as an antibacterial, antiviral, and antifungal agents to kill components that contribute in creating acne. Now that we covered the external benefits of coconut oil, I want to discuss how it can prevent terminal diseases. Empirical evidence suggests that coconut oil can prevent diseases. DrAxe.com claims that there are over 1,500 studies that prove that coconut oil is one of the healthiest foods on the planet. The first one is that it helps treat Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's patients lose the ability to create their own insulin in the brain, but with coconut oil, It helps create an alternative source of insulin, which then helps treat the brain to help restore it to how it once was. Another thing that it helps prevent heart disease and high blood pressure. Coconut oil has a high density lipoprotein, which is a good type of cholesterol, and it converts low density lipoprotein, which is a bad kind of cholesterol. High density lipoprotein promotes heart health and reduces the risk of heart disease and high blood pressure. And the last, and in my opinion, one of the most beneficial ways in which it can prevent disease is cancer. Coconut oil is rich in ketones, and since cancer is glucose dependent, ketone, when absorbed by humans, it gives us energy. However, since it's a replacement of glucose, cancer cannot use ketones to turn it into energy. Therefore, a ketone diet can treat and prevent cancer. So in conclusion, coconut oil truly is a superfood. Not only can it be used for external and internal uses, but it can also prevent terminal diseases such as cancer. Thank you.
So Adrian, what did you think?
I think the speech was good. I think what could have improved it was adding a preview at the beginning, kind of like let us know like what about coconut oil you're gonna talk about, and then also like try and kind of deliver your points fully, because sometimes like I know the nerves sometimes like make you like mumble or say it under your breath, but yeah, some parts were hard to hear or understand. But I thought your visuals were really solid and good, and they helped deliver your claim better again. And it was very well cited. You cited a lot of sources, which made it legit. And it was very well organized. Like you didn't flip flop. It was all consecutive. So overall, I thought it was good.
Well, I think Adrian picked out a lot of things that I was going to say about the speech. So let me start with the preview. There's not really a preview, So you just dive into the presentation, and that gets to be a little bit confusing. Now, as you're speaking, I'm able to pick out the sections that you're talking about because you do label them in the body of the speech. And that was pretty clear. The transitions are sometimes a little bit obvious. They could be smoother, a little more polished as you're getting from point to point, but it's clear that there is an organizational pattern once you get into the speech. But there wasn't at the beginning of the speech any suggestion that that's where you were headed. And so I didn't know how many points there were going to be. You at one point you said, well, now that we know about the internal points, I got, okay, so these two things fit into the internal section. Let's talk about the external. I'm going, okay, so it's a two-part thing. There's an internal and external, but the truth of the matter is there's actually a third point where you're talking about preventing of significant diseases. That's something I would have known had there been a preview at the beginning of the speech. So I think that she's got a good point on that, and that's a place where there's a little bit of a problem. I like the introduction with the idea of superfoods and how it's become a buzzword, and I like your definition of it, and then the reveal that coconut oil is one of those superfoods, and that's what you're here to talk about, and that's fine. I thought your thesis statement was good, and your attention devices were solid there. So at the beginning of the speech, the weak thing is the absence of the preview. In the body of the speech, I'm going to agree with Adrian also about the citations. I thought you did a very good job citing information. Sometimes the citations are a little bit cryptic and conclusionary. You're giving us information without explaining how they arrived at that information. And if those sources are trustworthy and reliable, then maybe I'm going to accept their conclusions. Sometimes the sources are only partially understood or knowable. Like you had the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, I think, for instance. That sounds like a pretty authoritative group, although it could just be a made-up name. I don't know who this group of people is. It sounds like it's a legitimate publication and that there's research on that, and the doctors or the researchers who did this information could be qualified a little bit more, and that would help you. But other than that, there were a whole bunch of other quotes that seemed to be kind of like from the healthcare field, but not exactly qualified. And like I said, there's a lot of conclusionary stuff that says, well, it does this, it does this, it does this. And I'm going, well, where's the information on that? At one point, you refer to somebody who says there are over 1,500 studies that say that it has all these benefits. I'm going, okay, why don't you just quote 3 of them, one on each of the things that you're talking about, and that would be okay. And then at the end, you can tell us about the 1,500 studies. I think that would work a little bit better. The idea that it's going to prevent Alzheimer's because it has this effect on the brain insulin thing that you're talking about, I don't really understand how somebody figured that out, who it is that figured that out, how that was proven. I don't think you made it up. I know that you read it someplace, but I think that doesn't get clarified very much. So even though I do think you have a lot of good citations, the problem is that you're often just giving me the conclusion instead of an explanation to go along with it. Sometimes there were some good explanations. For instance, when you were talking about how the coconut oil helped people with their hair and it had this particular benefits, you kind of go through an explanation about how it works, and it's almost complete. This is a place where I think the visual would have helped to explain what it is that you're talking about, and we don't get anything that adds to that last element that would make your idea a little bit more complete there. So I think that you've done a good job here, but you lose the opportunity to keep the audience interested by giving us a little bit more detail on the explanations and also talking about some of those other applications that would be like the hair thing. I'm going, well, who needs that? What kind? Maybe I need it. That's the kind of stuff that you were talking about. So what's it going to benefit you? You can talk about somebody having luxurious hair, or it's easier to manage, or it's going to stay longer, or it's going to be stronger, and why is that a healthy thing? Fill it in a little bit. What you've got is not bad, but you got to give us a little bit more rooting interest and care about some of those things. I think you did that okay on a couple of the other points. The HDL, LDL explanation, for instance, I thought was one of those places where you did manage to, again, approach the same degree of clarity in your explanation, and that's something that's good. So you're on the right track with that, and you just need to do that more consistently on all the other points. Now, on the visuals, this is where I'm going to disagree with Adrian a little bit. There's nothing wrong with the visuals that you had, except most of them don't explain anything. They're usually used as transition points. In other words, they're just signposts about the next thing that you're talking about. They don't really add much to the explanation. And it seemed to me like that's where you're missing a trick. You could fill in some of those blank spaces about the conclusions of the research with a little bit of visualization about how these things combine to make the hair stronger, or how this works in the brain to help the memory function a little bit more effectively. There's probably some process illustration in some of the original research, and I think I get the impression that we're getting some secondary research here instead of the original research, and those visualizations might have been something that you could have used in the presentation. There was a little bit more reading than you want, but it wasn't bad. It's just you want to get better at that kind of thing. And I thought you did okay. She mentioned that your voice dropped out a little bit once in a while, and I think that that's noticeable in a couple of spots. But that's just something that comes with practice. You're going to do better on that in the future without any trouble. I thought the summary was solid, although it feels a little bit rushed. And since you had those points clarified in the body of the speech and at the ending, it makes that preview thing stick out a little bit more like a sore thumb. Like, well, why didn't you have that too? Because you had everything else that you needed to have in regard to those things. All right. Okay. Thank you.